Uh, hey people. Um, so Remnant 2 dropped an update, which is free to everyone, and basically it comes with a bunch of new weapons. Um, basically, they are existing weapons that now have a corrupted version, and the corrupted version behaves differently from the normal version. There's a lot of people um, that have been asking why I think that the corrupted versions are better than the majority of the regular version. Um, and it's kind of hard to describe without showing you. So I figured I'd just make a video showing you why I think they are better. In addition, one of the developers, Tragic Gunfire, also confirmed that the majority of these weapons that got a corrupted version were the weapons that had the least usage out of all the weapons in the game, with the exception of the Deceit. But he had a bit of pull on the Deceit because it's his favorite gun, so that's why it also got a corrupted version. And the base versions of these weapons, they will be getting a update later on to make them more juicy. Um, Another thing you need to know at the moment, there's a bug where if you have crafted one of these weapons, you need to go over to um, this guy over here in War 13, and you can trade your base version in for the corrupted version, and he will take the base version. So the bug is that after you get the corrupted versions, you're supposed to be able to craft the normal versions of these weapons. The weapons in question being Deceit, Aphelion, Merciless, Meridian, and the Rune pistol. However, even if you have the material, like I do in my inventory, you are unable to craft the weapon at the moment because the option is just not displayed to you, and this is currently a bug that will be fixed in the future, so you will be able to have both the corrupted version of the weapons. So as you can see, I have the material for the Rune pistol in my inventory, but I do not have the option to craft it, even though I have the corrupted version, but no longer the normal version. So this is a bug, and it should be fixed in the future. We don't know when yet, but it's good to know that the devs are aware of it. So comparing the weapons and informing you of how they work, let's first off trade back to the normal version of the weapon, so we can show you what the normal versions do. And trading back to the normal version will cost you basically the corrupted version of the weapon plus a simulacrum. So yeah, be aware of that. As of yet, make sure that you really want the corrupted version of a weapon and you don't want to use the normal version because it can be quite expensive to trade back the items. I'll be unequipping all my jewelry and my artifacts. So we basically just have the standard hugs set up here, using first and last ability, as you can see. These are currently my trades, and we basically just want to compare the raw damage using the target practice dummies. So first up is the Deceit. So the normal Deceit, it shoots one shot, and let's charge up the mods. After you charge up the mods, if you have a melee weapon equipped, preferably one with a ranged attack, you can do the following. When you activate the mod, you get a bunch of spinning blades. And now if I use a charge melee attack, all the hits on the target will become weak spot hits, which are red hits basically. So that is the Deceit in a nutshell. So it does shoot 2 shots per shot, which is quite nice. And we were getting 297 white and 464 yellow. And we are getting 913 double crit and 609 red normal. So if we compare that to the corrupted version of the Deceit, let's see how that does.
Of course.
So the corrupted version of the Deceit, it currently has a few bugs. But first of all, the thing you will notice is that it no longer shoots a single shot. It will basically shoot a burst of 2. And we're getting 372 white. Still needs the same amount of total shots to charge, which was the mod, which was 6. And now if I press tab, I will, tab is my mod use, so if you use the mod it will immediately shoot out a circular saw. However, this saw can be bugged. There's like a few bugs with it. One of them is it gets stuck behind objects, so I once had it get stuck in this area. It was like stuck between these pillars. And it can also like spawn a little behind the character, and if it hits anything behind you, like a wall or something, it won't go in a straight line, and basically you used your mod, it's now on cooldown, and you didn't get any usage out of it. This is the only weapon I wasn't necessarily convinced on if the corrupted version was necessarily better than the original version. Because the original version is extremely inconsistent. However, this does have the double shot, a bit more damage, and the nice thing about this one is that to get the red hits, the weak spot shots, I only need to hit the target with the mods. I don't need to use a charged melee attack to trigger it anymore. Which means that once the bugs have been ironed out, this weapon should be more consistent than the normal version. But due to the bugs at the moment, I would still recommend using the normal version over this one. Another thing to point out is that the saw can pierce targets. So if I go here and I use it, I pierce the targets, and now if I shoot, I will get the red crits. And as you see, there's currently a bug which seems to be only related to the target dummies, because they are bleed immune, where the first hit was red, that one is guaranteed, and then every additional hit afterwards can be anything between white, yellow, or red. This is a bug, this is not intended. All the shots should be weak spot hits, which means that they should be red, and this is currently not the case. Let me pop an ammo crate. So as you saw there, I got 2 shots off, and then it disappeared. And again, this is not how it should be. This is something that happens to target dummies, because the projectile is supposed to make them bleed. However, target dummies are immune to bleed, and this seems to affect this weapon's mod. Out in the open world, I haven't been able to reproduce this behavior, so I believe it is a target dummy only issue, which probably be resolved at some point, because Tragic did say that Maybe he should give target dummies a bit of love. However, combined with like the other issues that the Windfall mod currently has, as you saw, like the saw went out a bit weird. If this happens during a fight, the chances are extremely high that um, your mod doesn't hit its target, it goes on cooldown, and your weapon is kind of useless. So even though it's basically pointing fire compared to the normal Deceit, I would still not recommend getting this over the normal Deceit with the current bug where you have to spend resources like simulacrums to get back the normal version of the weapon. Moving on to the Meridian. So this is a weapon that doesn't see a lot of use. It shoots grenades, and so as you can see, the shots are arced, and this already makes it one of the more difficult weapons to use correctly. So yeah, shooting this in a like high octane situation and properly hitting the targets is not an easy thing to do. It is a very cool weapon, but the difficulty of use just makes it not one of the like most used weapons in the game. As a matter of fact, aside from the Deceit, all the weapons that got a corrupted version are weapons that barely see any usage. So you can assume that that the developers have some kind of metric to yeah, determine on what people are using. So yeah, this weapon shoots out a grenade, deals explosive damage. It's pretty cool, but it's incredibly hard to use. So we can see here that the weapon is only like hitting white. So the damage is basically 406 base in this case, and the mod is doing 600. The mod is a rocket. Now the nice thing about the corrupted version, which I will be picking up again. Thank you, 12. So the nice thing about this one is now that instead of shooting grenades, all the shots now become rockets, and not only that, it behaves like a fusion where I can charge it up. So you can see in the bottom right I have 6 micro missiles or rockets, whatever you want to call them, in the magazine, and I can shoot them one by one. Or I can hold and load up to 3 rockets into one shot and fire them all at once. And the fact that it travels in a straight line and it doesn't have any like curvature, it just like continues to travel in a straight line, makes this version of the weapon so much easier to use, because now it basically behaves like a gun instead of like me needing to do like some complex math mid-fight to determine if my shot will hit. And yeah, it also seems like the AoE is bigger. I haven't tested if any of the AoE effects will increase the explosion radius, but you can assume that it would. Things like Archer's Crest that increase its charge up speed also work with the gun. There seems to be a bug at the moment where so there's another bug. So at that point the mod of the weapon doesn't have a description here, but if you go in here you can see it. Apparently this weapon should have a faster reload if you hit like targets, but at the moment this doesn't seem to be working, at least not on the target dummies. This was pointed out to me by Tragic on Discord after he saw a previous video of mine where I basically just made a very quick showcase of the weapons. So I don't know if this is actually the case or something, because I cannot really find any description where it says that it should have a faster reload after hitting anything. But getting increased reload after hitting a target would be amazing, because this weapon already feels extremely satisfying in its current shape, and having a fast reload always is great. So the mod, you can have 2 charges of it, and it basically shoots another rocket, which I'm just emptying the gun. Yeah. Now if I shoot this, I will get basically a cluster, and as you can see, it has quite a bit of range. The total damage of the cluster is also higher than we were getting out of the mod of the base version of the Meridian. So the corrupted Meridian is definitely an upgrade, both in damage of the mod and usability with the main fire. Moving on, let's do the Rune pistol, because the Rune pistol is probably one of the more unique guns in the weapon. More of the uniquer guns in the game, sorry. That's, I basically, in 200-ish hours of game time on both PC and Xbox, have never been seen used by anyone. It's not the easiest weapon to get, but it is a very cool weapon, and I think one of the pain points of this weapon is that the base version, as you can see, it shoots a burst, which is pretty cool. Being an offhand, it doesn't have the most range, so it will fall off pretty fast, as you can see here. And the mod basically brands the enemies, but basically you need to kill the enemies to get the echo. So with the mod active, you can see that within a radius, the target dummies, they get marked. And now if I would kill them, then I would get the brand. The corrupted version changes up things. Let's do one more shot to compare like the damage numbers. So 160 per hit. 42 shots in the magazine total. Now if you go to the corrupted version, you see that we lose a lot of bullets in the magazine. We go from 42 to 25. However, we no longer shoot a burst. We now shoot, we can hold the shoot button, and the weapon is basically fully automatic. Now, I wonder, as you can see, like I'm getting a lot of red crits. So those are like the big red numbers that are dealing 255. I wonder how good this weapon will now be doing as a like in a crit build. Because it's extremely easy to use. You just like, it's basically the Black Maw, but in the sidearm slot. And the mod got updated, and now it's so much easier to use, because it basically applies the same brand to all the enemies within the same range. But it increases the damage, the marked targets, by 10%. So without killing anything, I already get a benefit from using the mod, which is a flat damage increase, which is basically equal to throwing a bright stone, which also increases the damage on the targets. But everyone in my party gets to deal the 10% bonus damage, so I'm not sure if this stacks with corrosive effects, but this is definitely a gun that is now more viable in multiplayer, because not only does it feel better because it's full auto, again I'm comparing it here to the Black Maw in the offhand slot, but basically I get straight up value from activating the mod instead of first having to get the final blow on a marked target, which can be quite difficult sometimes in multiplayer, especially if you're playing on higher difficulty with people using like primary weapons in like a min-maxed damage build, and you are using a Rune pistol, which is an offhand weapon, so by default you have less range, making it harder to deal your full damage, plus the base damage of handguns usually being lower than primary weapons. Plus you would be probably running a support build, so landing that final blow can become tricky in multiplayer, while this weapon basically just gives me straight up value when I activate the mod. So 170 and 255, if I activate it, we deal so we went from 170 base to 181 base, so if it's 10%, quick maths, we should be doing 17 damage more, so we should be doing 187 and not 181. So I don't know if this is also bugged or not, or if these or like how armor calculation works from these guys, but this is not a flat 10% increase on the target dummy from what I'm seeing. Let's try it with Brightstone. So when we use a Brightstone, which also gives a 10% increase, we do get 187-1. So the mod says it should be dealing 10% extra damage. This doesn't seem to be the case, because instead of 187-1, we were dealing 181. So this seems to be bugged at the moment and not give us the increased damage amount, but we still deal more damage, and this applies to everyone in the team, which is still nice. Moving on, we have the Aphelion, which is one of the cooler weapons in the game, if you ask me. And first of all, we can see 660 red hits, and I believe it was 990 weak spot crits. Yeah, there we go. 307 white. So shooting this weapon, basically we fire out some balls that deal burning damage, and this gun basically it pierces targets. However, you shoot out like one disc, slash, whatever you want to call it. So it can be quite tricky to basically get multiple headshots, depending on the height or the elevation of how the enemies are standing behind each other. Like if you're on a flat surface and you have a clean shot, then obviously it should be pretty easy, but it travels in a straight line, so even if I would do this, it would fly over the two behind there and I wouldn't hit them. If I go too low, then as you can see here, I didn't get the correct headshot hit on the last two, so this weapon can be a bit tricky to use sometimes. The mod basically shoots this black sphere that deals damage, but if I shoot the sphere, then I can make it explode, causing it to deal a lot more damage. So the range of that is massive. It deals a lot of damage, and it will, as you can see here, straight up kill you. This also applies to your teammates, of course, as people that have been traumatized by Firestorm probably know. Friendly fire in this game is a thing, and maybe it's a good thing that we don't see this weapon too much, because of the mod being easy to charge and easy to kill your teammates with. So 660, 990 and 307. If we swap to the corrupted version, there's one very big noticeable change, which already instantly makes the weapon a lot more viable, if you ask me. Which is the fact that now, instead of shooting a singular disc, I will be shooting additional discs. making getting the headshot crits a lot easier. So as you can see here, each one of these slices or discs deals damage. So the previous one was doing 330 damage on a red hit, so on a headshot base. So that's not with a crit. So weak spot hit that is not critting was dealing 330. And now I'm getting 234. So if I have a large target like an elite that has a big crit spot, I'm dealing 3 times 234. So this is a total of 700 over 700. So comparing 700 to 330, this already is dealing more than double the damage compared to the normal Aphelion. In addition, if I now shoot the mod, I shoot multiple spheres, each one exploding. So this basically means two things. I don't know if the total damage is the same on the mod. Like comparing numbers, it should be roughly the same, or maybe even exactly the same. I haven't really done that. But what I notice is basically the range is more compressed, so you're less likely to kill yourself or your teammates. And because you have multiple orbs, you can like easier hit them, especially with like the extra disc you're shooting. And also the mod power requirement is lower than the normal version. So not only does this weapon deal basically more damage and is now easier to use because of the additional projectiles, the mod is now multiplayer friendly. So this is now definitely a weapon that I will be using, where previously I would not even consider it. So the corrupted version is definitely a upgrade, like in flat damage and in usability. Moving on to the final weapon. This one is probably the one that will have the most debate. It's the Merciless. The Merciless is a bit of a unique weapon. So first of all, I want to point out that the corrupted version of the Merciless behaves like a totally different weapon. The normal Merciless and the corrupted Merciless should not be compared because they fill in different usages. Having said that, I do believe that the corrupted Merciless is better. The Merciless, the base Merciless is not really known for its DPS output. It's mainly known for its bleed effect when you shoot the normal flechettes. For the people that don't know, bleeding applies a damage over time, which is nice, but the main usage of it is that targets that have bleeding have 50% reduced healing. This is relevant for bosses that have modifiers that heal them, like Regenerator or maybe even Apathy, because basically you reduce the healing they do by 50%, which is quite a lot. So for a lot of people, the Merciless is a weapon that they will use because of the bleeding. I want to point out that bleeding doesn't work against target dummies. So you can see here, there's no damage overtime like I would have if I was using burning. This is known behavior, and basically if I cannot showcase the bleeding effect, but you can see that there's like a blood graphic when I hit target dummy, so normally it would apply bleeding and you would have like a damage overtime tick going for 10 seconds. Now, if I have charged the mod, I will have 3 shots of single fire that deal high damage, 906 weak spot in this case. And basically the base flechettes don't deal a lot of damage, they have travel time, and it's not really a weapon known for its damage. So because of its lower damage, also compared to weapons like Black Maw, which is basically hit scan, the Merciless basically has a niche in the bleeding utility, and then the mod with the triple single fire shots basically increases its damage a bit, but overall it just doesn't compete with a lot of the really like top tier meta weapons. Now the Corrupted Merciless, on the other hand, is a different beast. So the Corrupted Merciless reads a bit difficult, and people have been asking me how does this work. So basically, ignore the flechette, ignore like having 50 rounds in magazine. You basically have 3 shots in the magazine. Because now imagine if you have the base Merciless and you charge up the mod fully, you get the 3 shots. Now those 3 special shots, the high fire single shots that you have on the normal Merciless, those are now your standard shots on the Corrupted Merciless. So we were doing 907, now we're doing 958. So again, the normal fire, the rapid fire of the Merciless is not a high damage weapon. It was basically the single fire shots from the mod that upped its damage, and now the corrupted version basically has this as the base fire mode, and it deals more base damage than the normal Merciless. So it's already an upgrade. As you can see, there's no bleeding SFX going on when I hit the dummy. So the weapon, the corrupted version, has lost its bleeding effect. And this was basically the main reason for a lot of people to use the normal Merciless. So if you are looking for that bleed effect, applying it to reduce the amount of healing enemies are receiving, you will want to remain on using the normal Merciless. However, if you're looking for a new damage option, the Corrupted Merciless is amazing, because not only are you basically getting the high damaging rounds that deal more damage than the base Merciless at all times. Once you have the mod active, I can just pop it, and basically I won't have to reload for the duration of the mod, which is apparently 13 seconds. So for 13 seconds I can just spam fire without having to reload. So again, this is with no rings, there's no mutator, no amulet, and I'm getting over 1400 weak spot crits. This is massive. Now there is a bug that after you use the mod, the muzzle flash will bug out. So as you can see here, we have muzzle flash going on even though we're not shooting. The muzzle flash will also not line up anymore with the shots. Swapping back and forth will fix this, but it can be a bit annoying. So the new Corrupted Merciless basically just straight up deals more damage with a mod that makes it extremely viable for damaging phases. So imagine you are fighting the Corruptor, you get a down on the Golem, and the Corruptor floats above you, revealing its weak spot. You pop the mod, and you get 13 seconds of no reload, where you just fire away. So I believe this weapon will definitely see a lot of use compared to the normal Merciless, even though it loses its bleeding. I don't think the bleeding was that relevant for a lot of people, and being able to do a lot more damage has a lot of value over the utility in this case, because now it basically just becomes a damage monster. It's also very satisfying to use. One thing I'll note that you will have to shoot with every shot, so you cannot just hold the button and fire away like the old Merciless. So I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing, but some people, especially console players, might just find the old Merciless nicer because you can just basically spray and pray. So yeah, those are basically the new versions of some weapons we got in the game with the last update. I hope this explained the usage of the weapons and how they work, and why I personally think they are better in most cases. As someone pointed out on Reddit, Some weapons are basically a side grade and you have additional choice. While I agree with that, the majority of these weapons straight up deal more damage, and the main reason to use any weapon is to deal damage. That in combination with one of the developers stating that the base versions need a bit more oomph, so to say, does make me believe that these corrupted versions are just straight up better than the normal versions. Thanks for watching, hope this was informative, and have a good time grinding these weapons out. See ya!